This is an actual call received on the peninsula, where first responders and adult protective services worked together to protect the public. This morning, EMS responded to an undetermined illness at a multi-generational family home that was also a residential home for people with disabilities, where the paid caregiver was a poor historian. The overwhelmed paid caregiver said that the patient was acting off. The patient was extremely sick. His blood sugar was through the roof. He had no kidney function, making the situation life-threatening. EMS had their eyes open during the medical emergency call and noticed that his bedroom was in complete disarray. No bed was observed, and the paid caregiver said the patient slept on the floor. EMS transported him to the nearest hospital, then medevac to a Richmond hospital. EMS phoned Adult Protective Services about his condition. The forensic nurse was concerned about the ligature marks on both wrists, and she felt they were the result of trauma and immediately contacted APS. APS then referred the investigation to law enforcement at the sheriff's office. After the patient returned from his father's, he wasn't sleeping and broke his bed. She claims to have ordered another one. Over the next week, the patient became increasingly ill, weak, and fatigued. The paid caregiver was providing water and an energy drink. The patient became very unsteady and could no longer clean himself. The morning of the 911 call, the patient was found on the floor. The paid caregiver provided a breakfast bar since he was diabetic. He then fell backwards while trying to drink from a cup. She then made the call to 911. She claimed to have no knowledge of the ligature marks. The patient's retired father lives 45 minutes away and says that he takes him home every other weekend and sometimes to appointments. The father says the patient can make simple breakfasts and can keep a clean room, and that his last visit was uneventful. He claimed to have no knowledge of the ligature marks. In an informal interview in the hospital, the emergency room physician said she had never seen worse cases of rhabdomyolysis or hyponatremia, and that the accounts provided by the paid caregiver and father did not add up. The doctor stated that he was clinically 7 liters low when it comes to hydration, and there is no way he was getting the fluid the paid caregiver said she was giving him. The physician expressed concern that the ligature marks indicated restraint, which led to muscle wasting and dehydration. In his hospital room, the patient was watching TV and had multiple IVs. He was calm and displayed no distress, but when questioned had only one-word answers. When questioning the patient about the ligature marks, the father interjected, "That has nothing to do with the situation." When asked what they were from, the father continued, constricting bracelets that he rubbed on his wrist. The father didn't answer when asked if he had bracelets on both wrists. We noted, while social services were taking pictures, that the marks were not completely circumferential, that they were not present on the dorsal side of the wrist. In our interviews with the patient and the paid caregiver, we discovered that she had pocketed the patient's state-provided allowance for her own purchases. We have reached out to the Commonwealth Attorney's Office to determine if the elements of the crime of abuse and neglect of vulnerable adults are met for charging purposes. And we will review the case with the local Elder Abuse Multidisciplinary Team, the Peninsula Elder Abuse Forensic Center, PEAFC, for any further recommendations or resources for the victim. Remember that signs of abuse, neglect, and exploitation can be subtle. Keep your eyes open for clues that something is going on with the vulnerable adults you encounter, and contact Adult Protective Services if the welfare of a member of the public seems to be in jeopardy.